suit, same old me.
Spider-Man PS4 is filled to the brim with amazing story moments, so it's going to be hard to just choose 5 of them, but that is exactly what we are going to be doing today. Anyways, welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another really interesting Spider-Man PS4 related video, specifically once again doing another top 5 list about the game. And this time we are going to go over the top 5 best story moments throughout the entirety of Marvel's Spider-Man. Now first off, this list is entirely my own opinion, and if there is a certain moment in the game that you do like a lot that does not appear on my list, just keep in mind this is what I personally think are the best moments of the game. And the second point is extremely obvious since it's not fully released yet in its entirety, but we are not going to be including any moments from the City That Never Sleeps DLC pack. But if you do want to end up hearing my thoughts about the DLC's story, just let me know and I may do that in another video. And lastly, each spot on the list will include one character throughout the main story of the game only one time. So what I mean by this is throughout my list I will be choosing very impactful moments that did occur during the main story, but I will not include characters that have been featured already multiple times. Because if that were the case, every single spot on this list would inevitably go to Dr. Octopus. So to keep things fair, each main character throughout the game will only be mentioned at least once for each spot of my list. And without further ado, let's get on with the show. Number 5, Peter Parker gets evicted from his apartment.
Come on.
Empire Sanitation, this is Eddie.
Yeah, hi. I'm trying to track down some items that were accidentally picked up from a dumpster outside my apartment.
Dumpster number?
Hang on. Uh, 64476.
That's room 33. Truck's already left its shift. If your stuff's not there, you're out of luck.
Wait, please. This is important. Can you at least tell me where the truck is?
Let me check. Alright. Looks like it should be at the municipal garage at Bowery and Grand.
Got it. Thanks, Eddie.
Out of all the moments during the game's main story, this one truly showed why Peter Parker is such a relatable character to all of us. Sure, even though he's a big-time superhero that can do everything a spider can, Peter Parker at the end of the day is simply your average Joe. He struggles with his relationships, tries to arrive at work on time and do his job properly, and also try and maintain a stable living environment at a crummy New York apartment. And throughout this entire part of this huge AAA blockbuster Spider-Man game, your main mission is to try and find your stuff that got thrown in the garbage. And I just love how Insomniac took their time with trying to showcase how relatable their version of Peter Parker can be, just like we know him from the comics. And even after gathering all of his lost belongings, he still ends up sleeping at the feast shelter, which is mainly used for the homeless residents of New York City.
What are you doing here so late?
Oh, I had a little mix-up at my apartment.
On the street, huh? I know the look. You're in the right place. Nothing to be ashamed of.
I know, I hate to take resources from people who need them.
Guess what, pal? Right now, you need them.
You got a point. Thanks, Gloria.
And given how many threats Spidey has to go up against during his day-to-day superhero routine, it just goes to show that Peter has to deal with similar struggles in his normal everyday life. And that is easily something that we can all relate to, and that is why it is number 5 on this list.
I can't take this.
You can, and you will.
I'll pay you back. Soon.
Just ask for help next time. Oh, you are so much like Ben. You have to learn to swallow that Parker pride and accept that you're human, like the rest of us.
But to continue this list with a moment that I was not expecting in the slightest when initially playing this game is number 4, the City Hall bombing. This heart-wrenching moment caught me off guard in more ways than I can count. Now, we did see this scene during the Paris Games Week trailer of 2017, which just appeared to have some bombs going off near a certain building. But when playing the game for myself and understanding all of the context that built up to this scene made it even more impactful when I was actually going through it. Getting to know Jefferson Davis on a personal level was really meaningful to me, and experiencing an actual terrorist attack with suicide bombers play out throughout this game's story was something I'll never forget. New York City has a very rough history with terrorist attacks, and seeing one actually be played out during this game's story is really commendable on Insomniac's part for actually going through it within the main narrative. This moment was not only the first of many to surprise me during the game's story, but it was also one that made it clear that Insomniac was not afraid to take risks. At first, some people were assuming that Mr. Negative and the Inner Demons were just going to be your standard run-of-the-mill villain, but after seeing what they did during City Hall made them even more impactful as villains to take out. And seeing that the last moment of Jefferson Davis's life was to try and protect his fellow officers just show what a hero can do even if he doesn't have any superpowers. And alongside of all that, being able to play as Miles Morales for the first time during this scene itself was truly amazing. Insomniac's original plan was to have the player play as Peter Parker during this scene, but I think it's a much better choice to be able to play as Miles instead of Peter. And the reason why I say that is because you feel more grounded in a realistic scenario playing as someone without any superpowers going through an actual terrorist attack and try and make it out alive. That and the constant worry of trying to make sure that Miles' parents are okay throughout this scene was truly gut-wrenching and very intense when you found out that Jefferson died during the blast.
Dad! Dad! Dad, no! Wake up, Dad. Wake up. Wake up.
And speaking of this character, we are now moving on to number 3 of this list, which fully identified him as a unique individual. And what I mean by this is what happens during the main mission of First Day, where Spider-Man saves Miles.
You just made your last mistake, punk. What the?
Does it seriously take this many guys to rob a teenager?
Now, for Miles Morales as a character, I was never really a fan of him throughout the main comics because I always saw him as kind of a Peter Parker copycat. But after seeing his role be played out in the main story of Marvel's Spider-Man, he has easily become my favorite iteration of the character in all forms of media. Instead of Miles basing his entire personality off of Peter Parker or Spider-Man, he instead is inspired by his own father. And even though he is a massive Spider-Man fan within this universe, the main hero that he has always looked up to is his own dad. And after experiencing Jefferson Davis's death during the City Hall bombing scene, you felt even more sorry for Miles as a character and were connected to him even more because of that. So seeing Spidey have this very heart-to-heart moment with Miles after saving him from some criminals just show what it means to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Just let me have it. Right on the jock, okay? I can.
Oh, sorry.
No. It's all good. You keep that up and you'll be fine. All right. Lesson's over. Gotta go.
Hey, thanks. You know,
Anytime.
just punch Spider-Man.
And since our hero knows all about what it means to lose someone you're close to, like his own Uncle Ben or even his parents, it just goes to show that Peter can be a savior just as much as Spider-Man can. And this moment was easily one of the best highlights of Miles Morales as a defining character.
Man didn't do nothing heroic except get himself blown up.
Hey, Ernie. I see you've met Miles. He's gonna be helping out around here. You may have heard of his father, Jefferson Davis. Pretty great that even though he's got a lot of stuff going on right now, he decided to come and volunteer. Don't you think?
Yeah. Thanks. Listen, kid, I'm sorry about your dad.
Come on, Miles. Let's see if Aunt May needs a hand in the kitchen.
Hey, Peter. Thanks for that back there.
Of course.
And as for another character that defined the entire game for me is none other than the main villain himself of Dr. Otto Octavius. And this of course leads into number 2, the main mission of the final part of the game, Pax in Bello.
You're fighting the wrong man. But have it your way.
Now this whole final mission of the game is one of the most cinematic looking boss fights of any Spider-Man media I have ever seen. Now during the main game there are a lot of great scenes between Peter Parker and Otto Octavius, but one of the biggest highlights for me was when Spider-Man actually confronts Otto as the main villain that he has become. Working as Otto's lab assistant and learning more about his background and his personal history with Norman Osborn made you connect with him even more on a huge personal level. So once Otto actually turned into Dr. Octopus, you couldn't help but feel sorry for him. And for me personally, when I was fighting Otto for the very first time, I tried my best to do as little damage on him as possible because I felt really bad when trying to fight him. Otto was Peter's mentor and father figure after Uncle Ben passed, and being able to work for him was basically a dream come true for Peter. So when this whole fight was going down, I couldn't help but feel the sorrow that you could hear in Peter's voice when he was actually trying to take out Otto as fast as possible. And once we, as the audience, found out that Otto knew that Peter was Spider-Man this entire time, you felt the emotion coming from Yuri Lowenthal's acting when he was trying to take out Doc Ock. And even though when we started the game it was obvious to tell that Otto was eventually going to become Dr. Octopus, it was crazy seeing him become an actual villain within this game's universe.
This means too much to me. Not more than it means to me!
Seeing Otto's self-righteous quest for revenge on Norman Osborn be played out was extremely intriguing to watch, and it was also even more impactful seeing him not care who got in his way, even if that meant his own friend Peter Parker. Not only that, but we also know that Otto was suffering from a degenerative disease that was affecting his own body. So even though Otto was trying to take out Norman, he was also trying to save his own life. Which is why during all of the time we spent with Otto throughout the main game, it made this moment even more impactful for me when playing it myself, and actually made me shed a lot of tears after seeing it be played out. And I just gotta say, Yuri Lowenthal and William Sawyers' performance during this scene is absolutely phenomenal on every single level possible. And that is why this is one of my favorite moments throughout the entirety of Spider-Man PS4.
You rest easy, knowing your secret is safe with me.
You do what you think is best, Doc. It's all any of us can.
Peter?
Even when it hurts like hell.
Peter, where are you going? Peter? Peter!
Now before we get to the number 1 pick, I do have an honorable mention, and that is indeed the last post-credit scene where we discover the true fate of Harry Osborn. Throughout the entirety of Spider-Man PS4's marketing, we were told that Harry Osborn was off doing business in Europe for Oscorp. And given that info and all the voicemails that Harry left at each research station that you took care of, I had no reason to doubt that that was the case. But after discovering Harry's real situation during that MJ mission in the penthouse, it was clear to me that something was truly wrong. And even though I was really surprised to see Miles show off his spider powers to Peter, nothing shocked me more than seeing Harry in this suspended state with this black substance wrapped around him in Norman's secret laboratory. And just knowing all the narrative circumstances that Insomniac have laid out throughout this first game, I can't wait to see how they're going to build that up within the sequel, showing off Harry as Venom in a way that we've never seen before.
I love you, son.
And with that honorable mention out of the way, we are now moving on to the number 1 best moment throughout the entirety of Marvel's Spider-Man story, which you've all probably guessed by now is, of course, Aunt May's death. Spider-Man always seems to be a character that is surrounded by death and actually is what motivates him to become a better hero. Spidey's experienced a lot of deaths within the comics, mainly relating to his parents, Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy, and lots more. And if you do know a lot of comics from Spidey lore, you would know that the comic One More Day did attempt to kill off Aunt May, and it did not work out well at all in the long run. But what made this scene so impactful is the portrayal of Aunt May from the wonderful Nancy Lanari, and also the great portrayal of Peter Parker from Yuri Lowenthal. Throughout the game's story, we do have these great scenes between Peter interacting with Aunt May, showcasing the great bond that they have as aunt and nephew. But usually in most Spidey stories, you never really think a lot about Aunt May because you always know that Peter is going to save her in the long run. So once Doc Ock actually released the Devil's Breath formula throughout New York and actually exposed Aunt May to it, I didn't give it any second thought because I thought that she would just be okay by the end of the game's story. But seeing how the main climactic scene during the ending of the game was Peter unmasking himself to Aunt May with her already knowing that Peter was Spider-Man was one of the most heartbreaking moments throughout the entire game. Uncle Ben taught Peter Parker that with great power there must also come great responsibility, but Aunt May taught Peter in this game that if you help someone, you help everyone. Peter Parker will always do what's right for the greater good of the city that he loves, and seeing how he had to sacrifice his own aunt that raised him in order to save everyone truly shows what a hero he is. And even though this is an insanely emotionally disturbing moment of the game, that is also why it is the best moment throughout the entirety of Spider-Man PS4's story. And even though the game ends on a primarily somber note, it just goes to show that Peter will do whatever he can to be the best hero that he can be. And even though he probably made the biggest sacrifice of all time, he will still do whatever it takes to save anyone he possibly can. And with all that out of the way, everyone, that's my top 5 list of the best story moments throughout Spider-Man PS4. Let me know all your thoughts of my list in the comments section down below, and also let me know your top 5 picks of your favorite story moments throughout the main game. Overall, this game had an incredible story, and I can't wait to see what Insomniac will do in the inevitable sequel. And if you did like this video, make sure to look out for another video coming out soon where I will go over the top 5 worst moments of the game's story in the entirety of Marvel's Spider-Man. But until next time, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Peace out.
And scene.